Hello, and welcome.
Welcome to the AV Forums podcast, streaming live on Wednesday, the 21st of April. And joining me in this edition, Ed Selley.
Chickens go in, pies come out.
Kaz Harlow.
Asking a senior officer to share his quarters.
Greg Hook.
Hello.
And Steve Withers.
Birds of a feather flop together.
Welcome back to the podcast. We're streaming live once again on a Wednesday evening. The light nights are coming in and the sun's out and all sorts. It's getting towards summertime. So
that's why my face is really well lit at the moment,
yeah,
in case you're wondering.
But we're all still sitting indoors and podcasting live as we should be. Just to tell you about some podcasts that are coming up. So we've got this one tonight. Monday, the 26th, we are talking to Sony about the 2021 TV lineup. We have yet to get the TVs in the UK. So we decided to get Sony on board to tell us all about the TVs, the technology. We deep dive into the A90J and so on. So look out for that one on Monday night. It'll be Monday during the day, 26th. The podcast will go up on
it's not
YouTube.
live. It's just
And it'll also appear as an audio-only podcast. So keep your eyes open for that one. And of course, the Movies podcast is coming back soon. Not next week, but the week after, the 4th of May, or May the 4th. But they're not talking about Star Wars, seemingly. So
no, it got voted out. Yeah, it got voted out. Yeah,
you can talk about the Bad Batch, can't you?
It's not happening. Yeah,
no, they didn't want to talk about Star
Do
Wars.
you understand that our audience? This is the kind of things they like.
No, it's the audience.
What are you talking about?
Voted. Patrons voted.
Really? What did they vote for?
Voted without remorse.
Hey,
It was
What?
Yeah.
What is
voted
that?
for-
Okay, well.
the latest Tom Clancy thing. Without remorse.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not Steven Seagal.
He's
But-
very
Okay,
prolific
that
for
is
it.
also in their wheelhouse, in fairness. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be that. It's going to be what were the other options, Phil? It was talk about Star Wars.
Can't you talk about two things?
Yeah, we are. We're talking about Without Remorse and book to
Yeah.
film adaptations, but they preferred that to talking about Mortal Kombat and video to film adaptations, or talking about Nomadland and Oscar winners, I think, something like that, or talking
Well,
about Star Wars.
I read the book Star Wars back in '77, and I thought the film was much better.
Yeah, so that's happening anyway. You can tune in for that. Like I say, May the 4th is the date for that one. A bit of a later start. I think it's an 8 p.m. start for the movies guys. So, they like to take their time and get prepared. So there we go. Look out for those. So Monday night, the Sony TV podcast. That's Monday the 26th, and then the movies podcast the following week after that. But we're here every Wednesday, so come and join us
until the universe actually
till the
dies
end of
eventually.
time. Till the end of time, we'll still be here. But yes, the chat is open tonight, so we are live on YouTube. So if you want to ask us questions, if you want to just to take part in a conversation or tell us what you've been doing or what you've been playing with and so on, you can put that in the chat window live. If you're listening audio-wise, obviously you can't do that, but you can send us an email to podcast@avforums.com and ask your questions there as well. Get involved tonight. We're talking about quite a variety of things, and there's quite a bit of news to get through as well, quite a bit of hardware news as well. So we've got lots to get through there. So Steve, what you've been playing with recently? Anything interesting in for review at the minute that's coming up?
About to say, we've got a lot to talk about. Let's get on with it. Have I been playing with? What have I been playing with that we haven't mentioned before? I've got the MadVR MV Extreme video processor. Have we mentioned that before?
And how much is that?
I believe it's £7,800.
All right, I'll have two of them.
So not cheap, although I think it's actually cheaper than the Lumagen Radiance Pro, or very similarly priced. So this is a high-end piece of kit, and it's also the size of a hatchback. So
good.
So
it fulfills all the criteria I'm looking for.
I got that, and I've got Zidu Z1000 Pro, Z1000 Pro. What video media box? Is that what you'd call it? A media box?
Yeah,
it does. When you described the Z1000 Pro, it sounded more like an endo motorcycle, like a big trailer of some description. But fair enough.
But I got that in as well. So I'll probably be giving Hodge a call at some point because I don't know.
You'll need to consult him like Yoda. It's going.
Yeah. He's going to be getting a lot of phone calls. And anything else? Anything else interesting? No, that'll do for now. Yeah.
All right, Kaz, what you've been up to? What you've been playing with? Anything interesting?
Watching stuff non-stop. I watched Nobody, which I had a lot of fun with. That's,
okay. How did you? And maybe I should ask you this afterwards. How did you see Nobody?
It's available in the US.
In the US,
you need a US.
And obviously, the way to explain that is Kaz works for a US company, so
I appreciate he's not doing anything illegal.
Nothing illegal.
But now I've got that Zadu box. I may have a solution to that.
Yes, I mean, I'll mention it later, but basically, it's a lot of fun, but we're not going to get it yet.
Okay, Greg, not seen you for a couple of weeks. What have you been up to?
Not much. I got a if you can hear me properly now, I've got a gaming PC up, just finished reviewing, which was pretty cool. Extremely expensive, but it was good. We'll come to that later.
Yeah.
Exciting mesh Wi-Fi system from Netgear, which costs £960.
Is mesh Wi-Fi exciting?
No.
No. Okay.
No,
It's
but
one of those things. It's useful though.
Oh, it
Is that a
is.
rhetorical question?
It is, but this one costs £960. So
I would
it
expect
is-
to be able to commune with the dead.
Yeah.
Not with a 900.
It
I'll tell
doesn't
you what,
quite
Greg.
do what you'd expect £960 to do.
But make tea for a start. Send it to
Yes.
my house, because if it can get a signal around my place, it wins.
I'm sure it can for that price.
I don't know.
Also, I've been watching Van Helsing, which I've not watched before. Just start watching it
What,
on
the film?
Netflix. No,
film?
the series,
All right. Okay.
which is pretty good. Been
Okay.
binge watching that.
And Lee was saying, Greg, you might want to make the bed one day.
No rush.
Saying something.
Oh, yeah, you're in a bedroom.
Oh,
Yeah, somebody's saying you might want to make the bed at some point.
that's the cat's bed, so not making that.
Okay. Ed, I take it you've been buying more trainers.
I bought these ages ago. They were on pre-order, but they should turn up at some point in the not too distant future. In case you can't see it,
them.
a Jamaica yellow Adidas Hamburg with black detailing. What more could you possibly ask for in a shoe?
So
Frankly?
is it just Adidas or Adidas that you go for, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I buy other shoes, but if I buy a training shoe, I mean, let's face it, Adidas have got the walking slowly to the pub demographic just absolutely nailed, and that's what I need in a shoe. No, hardware wise, beyond shoes, I've actually been having not a lot of fun with writer's block over the last couple of days, but we'll be working through that.
Oh, I suffer for that every day.
I'm usually all right. It's been brutal the last couple of days, but these things must pass. In terms of things I'm working on at the moment, the brand new Cambridge Audio DAC Magic 200M. Which is weird because I've had to read Steve's old review of the original DAC Magic Plus to see what his thoughts were on that. Visiting.
Steve doesn't even remember reviewing that.
Well, there you go. Well, mercifully, your thoughts are recorded for posterity. There
Did it
is.
sound remotely sensible?
Yeah, for the most. Actually, no, you were very worryingly thorough. Then I'm looking at a pair of Kudos speakers. Now, it's a record that I like the Kudos Titan 505 very much, but it is now £8,500. So this is an investigation to see what happens when Kudos makes a speaker that costs quite a bit less than £8,500. There's a pair of Bose & Wilkins floor standers going through. I've got the announced today. I don't know if it'll work in the background, but I've got the Bose & Wilkins i7 wireless in-ear earphones as well. So it's an action-packed calendar, Phil. There's loads of stuff going through. It's wall-to-wall excitement.
Okay, well, we're going to come on to one of the subjects I wanted to cover because it looks like I might be twiddling my thumbs very soon with nothing
running out. Well,
nothing
no,
to review.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought that was a euphemism for a second.
Because of the chip shortage and other shortages in the Suez Canal and all the rest of it, there seems to be major delays in products.
It's time to pivot you over to hi-fi reviewing because you'll be an absolute natural at it.
Yeah, but I'm not old enough yet for the smoking jacket and the slippers. I'll wait.
Right. Okay. Here's actually a very interesting question. Pervaz, one of our patrons, has asked, Ed, will you be reviewing the Cambridge Audio Evo 75 or 150? That's a point of contention. it's a matter of record that in the past I've worked for Cambridge Audio. Now I'm reviewing the Datmagic 200M because I've had absolutely nothing to do with the Datmagic 200M. The Evo is less clear cut than that. I was involved in sort of helping get the app sorted out. So I regard that as a bit of a conflict of interest as it stands. So for the moment, no, but Phil's just announced he's not doing anything, so you need to ask him.
I didn't say that.
He'll do a fine job at it. He'll do a fine job.
Things are going to get delayed. Obviously, hairdressers are open now, so
yeah, I got done this morning. It's a relatively restrained haircut compared to you guys with just, but it's fine.
I saved myself £10-15. Job done.
Good. Excellent. Right. So yeah, we've got lots to talk about, lots to get on with. So we're going to crack on once Kaz tells us what we can win.
Oh, you can win a SVS SB1000 Pro and runner-up prizes, including isolation feet, subleads, and T-shirts, courtesy of the American Audio Company. A 2 terabyte HUMAX or a 4K Freeview recorder worth $279. And there's a bunch of the usual 4K Blu-ray competitions, including, and I've just added Battle Royale, the 5-disc limited edition Blu-ray box set, the Fanny Lai delivered 4K limited edition box set, 4-movie comedy musical Blu-ray box set from Studio Canal, headlined by Catch Us If You Can, Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15 on 4K. That's all the Patreon exclusives currently running, and it's a pretty good set. I don't think I've got anyone who enters these competitions who hasn't won a Patreon exclusive.
Good.
So for the patrons out there who enter, you've all won something, I think, so far.
Is that why Tom's just joined?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Probably.
yes. I told him it's not going to increase his chances, which are 0, as well as regular competitions for Gattaca in 4K, Austin Powers Collector's Edition Blu-ray, Frightened City on Blu-ray, Silent Action on Blu-ray, Journey of a Lifetime and Travels of a Lifetime on Blu-ray, and Criterion's April titles on Blu-ray. And I should point out that I've just been told the HUMAX competition has actually closed. So it's my fault for knocking this up early. Head over to avforums.com competitions to enter. All competitions open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK. And of previous competition winners, Bitman666 won a Patreon exclusive copy of HBO's limited edition series The Undoing on Blu-ray and have confirmed safe receipt of it. So I hope you enjoy that. And Wreck-It Yat won a Patreon exclusive copy of Yellowstone Season 2 on Blu-ray. Stay tuned for the podcast exclusive competition to win a copy of Ip Man Kung Fu Master on Blu-ray.
Okay, thanks for reading that out, Kaz. There we go. So that's competitions that you can enter. And well done to those who have won some prizes. So we'll be back in a second with hardware.
If you'd like to support the AV Forums podcast on a regular basis, then why not become a patron? Head over to patreon.com/AV Forums to sign up. You can also make a one-off donation through the Super Chat or via streamlabs.com/AV Forums. All donations help us to improve the website and the podcasts. Thank you to all our supporters.
Right then. So who's become a patron this week? Tom Davies has become. Thank you very much, Tom.
I don't think Tom quite understands the whole concept of this.
No, but his support is welcome. Thank you very
Tom,
much.
you've just paid yourself. Hold on.
Don't forget, if you are a patron, you get merch 10% off, and it's pretty. Actually, these t-shirts are really comfortable, so it doesn't matter what it says on the front, but there are some nice designs if you go and have a look at the merch page. And yeah, the t-shirts.
What other merch is there apart from t-shirts?
Mugs. You want mugs?
I like a mug. I like
Hoodies?
A mug.
Yeah, yeah, there's hoodies and so on. I don't think we've decided yet.
Baseball caps? Any baseball caps?
No, it's no baseball caps, unfortunately. I'd have a baseball cap. I would want a baseball cap.
I'm more of a beanie person than a baseball cap.
You're more of a
in the summer.
Person.
I'm not wearing an AV Forums branded shoe. Can we be very clear?
You would have if it was made by Adidas, wouldn't you?
Yeah. What if it was detailed?
All right. No. Okay. That's absolutely fine. If you can do a tie-in with Adidas for an originals,
Is it Adidas or Adidas?
I've always said Adidas, but yeah,
I think it's Adidas.
Adidas.
Yeah.
Oh, it's German,
Nike
isn't
or
it? So you
Nike?
can say it whichever way you like.
I don't think it
Adidas.
matters that much.
We've actually stayed in the Adidas or Adidas hotel, haven't we, Steve? Germany.
Yeah, well, was that in Germany?
Yeah, it was a
you're right.
press
We
event.
did
or
not
something.
get a free pair of Adidas either.
No, but all the staff were wearing Adidas.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Adidas.
probably enforced. I mean, the
But
only
you
thing
didn't
that I
wake
find,
up with 3 stripes across your face in the morning.
very quickly, Judith Johnson. Hi everyone. Me and the other half watch the podcast every week. That's cruel and unusual punishment. But
That
well
makes
done.
you probably our only female watchers, Judith.
Yeah,
so
please
thank you very
can you
much.
wish Jason Bristol a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jason. I
happy
hope you've had
birthday.
a
Happy
splendid
birthday.
time.
Yep, happy birthday,
And
Jason.
not too far
Right.
from me if you're in Bristol, only about 12 miles away.
Don't threaten the listeners, Steve.
Yeah. I can be there in 30 minutes.
I know where you live. Yeah. So if you are interested in the merch, Stuart's been putting it up on there. There's lots of different designs. We're going to be adding designs as we come up with them. If anybody has a funny logo or saying or whatever that you want to have on a t-shirt with the AV Forums logo, then send your requests in, and we'll see if we can.
If it's libellous, please don't bother.
No, don't. Yeah, but if it's AV
Rebellious? You mean libelous?
libelous.
Either. I mean, fundamentally, we can skirt
Tomatoes,
skirt the boundaries of mild offence, but something which is going to land us in court, not so much.
Yeah, I quite like to run 99.97% pedant or something like that. I thought that was quite interesting.
I just like the got nits one, frankly. I mean,
Yeah,
that just
I don't think
appeals
it's-
to
I
a
don't-
multiple level.
I don't think it's up there yet, Ed.
Quite niche.
Well, I mean, as I say, I'm always a fan of an incredibly niche joke, and that one is that fulfills that criteria admirably,
Yeah.
whilst
Well, you see-
terrifying other people.
You see, that's the point, Steve, that they're niche. It's so.
Yeah, I understand that.
I've
I've been working with his site long enough to know we are definitely niche.
Yep, we are indeed. Right, so I suppose we better go on and start doing some bits and pieces. So let's do the news first, I think, before we get into the reviews. So quite a bit of news going on. I'm pretty sure we announced the Sony projectors last week, but they turned up on the running order again. So just in case you missed it, Sony have launched 2 new.
Did we talk about it last week? I have no memory of that.
I have no memory of that.
I don't think
I mean,
we did.
I
Did we
know
not?
I drink, but
Because I don't think they were. I think it was a bit late for.
No, it was a bit.
I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about it last week.
It was a week before. It was the 8th that they were announced.
Yeah, but I don't think. I think we forgot to talk about them.
Did we? Okay.
Yes.
Well, anyway, Sony have launched 2 new projectors. The news story has been up on the site for about a week now, maybe a bit longer actually. So there's a new entry level, which is the 290, which replaces the 270. So the VW290ES, and then the VW890ES, which is a ridiculously expensive 4K projector, £25,000.
Bargain.
It's not
A lot of that money is the glass, I think, and the lens.
Yeah,
although
but
I'm not
there's-
sure it's that much better, but that's some of it.
Well, I had the 870 and I didn't want to give it back. It's probably the only Sony projector where I thought it absolutely trounced the competition completely. Obviously laser based, the colors were lovely, and like you say, the glass. There's coatings that they can now put on the glass in terms of heat dispersion and chromatic aberration. Get rid of that and sharpen the whole thing up. It looked phenomenal. It was actually like one of their professional projectors. If you would go to cinema, that's the type of image it was projecting. It really was spectacular. But then it's 25 grand. You expect that for that type of money. So the 890 replaces the 870, which I absolutely adored when it was in. And the 290, it's pretty strong. But again, it not quite breaking the 5K barrier. It's £5,500, the 290 ES. So it's a little bit more expensive than the
I
outgoing
think it
model.
probably would have been sub £5,000 if it were not for certain other factors this year.
Yes, well, these are the factors that we were talking about earlier on, which is basically chip manufacturing. And
But also, I think
shortages.
Brexit may have had a factor in it. Pricing in this
No,
country.
actually, they said Brexit wasn't a factor in it. It was
Oh,
other
okay.
factors. It was actually the cost of producing the product that pushed the price up. So it wasn't, and they made it pretty clear it wasn't Brexit in the presentation I have. So yeah, 2 projectors. We're going to get them in for review as soon as they're available. I think it's June. They are.
You haven't told anyone what I mean. Difference-wise, it's not massive. Basically, they've got the
Well, no,
X1 for project,
I was
X1
going to come on to that. Yeah, so obviously the X1 for projector. Basically, if you've seen our reviews for the 590 and the 790, it's what was added to them. So obviously the dynamic. It's not dynamic tone mapping. It's dynamic HDR.
No, it's not.
Which is something different.
They're
So
being
it's
a
not-
bit ingenuous with that, with their marketing. I think.
Yeah, it's not the it's basically it's looking at a histogram and it's basically an S curved gamma that they're adding to the image. That's what they're doing. So they're adjusting the image on the fly, but it's not tone mapping. It's not dynamic tone mapping. It's manipulation of the image, basically using a gamma curve. But they are really strong projectors. They always have been. The problem is that it's really small increments. When they bring new models in, there's nothing that really stands out. So, like we're saying, the 90 is laser based, the 290 is bulb based projector, and that's about it. That's about the difference. So, video processing wise, and the HDR side of things. But the strong performers always have been. We'll be getting them in for review, and 25 grand still a lot of money for a projector.
Yeah, well, you get 790 instead for
yes,
13 grand, something like that. So.
Yeah. Or do you even stretch to that? It's interesting. I thought by now native 4K would be under 5 grand, but it's not. But anyway, those are coming very, very soon, like say June, which means I'm going to be sitting in a really hot cinema room with the projector running, blowing hot air into the room.
It's like my equivalent is valve amp season. I mean, that only happens
in June
when the temperature creeps up over like 25 degrees. Something which is actively belching heat into the room.
So when you want something like this, like in the winter months when when you're using the cinema rooms and stuff, and never happens. They always launch it in the summer, don't they? So those are coming up anyway. Be in for a review, like I say, roundabout now. Anybody here still use an all-in-one remote control with their equipment? Anybody?
No, you used to. I haven't used it for a while.
Yeah. Why is that then, Greg? Why have you stopped using your all-in-one?
Well, the way the HDMI connects to each other, you just turn Sky on at the moment, and it turns my amp on, turns the telly on all at the same time.
So you're using CEC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sort of made it was a Logitech Ultimate, but yeah, just stopped using it really.
Yeah, and of course there's other ways to control your kit these days, Steve. A lot of companies now have apps, so you can use your mobile and
there's app-based stuff. I think Greg's hit the nail on the head, which is that, well, two things really. One is that there are less devices now because a lot of people are streaming, so a lot of it's just done straight through their TV, and a lot of people aren't using disc players and that sort of thing anymore. Maybe using a soundbar rather than a separate system. So there's less devices to control, and HDMI CEC means that you can do the most basic stuff like changing volume and that sort of stuff with your TV remote or with another remote. So you don't really need. I mean, I had a Harmony One for a few years. I mean, I bought my first Harmony probably back in before Logitech even owned them, back in 2002, I think. And I had one before that was a Marantz Universal remote.
I
used the Harmony One until I guess 2012 or something like that. But then
was that the little tablet one?
No, it was just one of the first remotes where you could go online and it would update it with all the different controls.
The one I used was, do you remember the Philips Pronto?
I do, mainly because I had to learn how to do Pronto, lay out Pronto screens and encode in Pronto hex. And I would frankly rather eat the cat sat on my lap at the moment than ever have to do that again.
I had mine for 6 months and I got rid of it through frustration. It never worked the way it was supposed to work. And like you say, trying to lay it out for different products to control and all that, it was a nightmare. It was easier just to pick up the remote control and use it than it was to pick up an all-in-one. But anyway, the reason we're bringing this up, Kaz, I haven't come to you. What do you use, or have you used an all-in-one? Kaz? Is Kaz frozen?
Mac
frozen.
So yeah, at the moment, Kaz is here in spirit only. So he's broken his Mac. So.
I thought he was looking decidedly stoic.
Yeah. Well, that's a first for the podcast. We've never had that happen before.
Killed Kaz. There we go.
Killed Kaz. But anyway, hopefully he'll come back. But anyway, the reason we're talking about all-in-one remotes is that Logitech have announced the end of.
They didn't even announce it, Phil. It just popped up in. I think it was in a user thread or something on some owner's thread.
Oh yeah, by the way,
they slipped it out as subtly as they could. It's like, yeah, we're not making it anymore.
I've read quite a few things. Wired had a big article on it, and there was a few other bits and pieces through the week where I've seen it pop up. But yeah, I mean, it's the death of the all-in-one controller, and well, is anybody? Obviously, people are not buying them.
No, I mean, half the
market.
problem is, I mean, you might assume naively that, hi-fi systems with multiple components which don't benefit from HDMI might have kept them going for a bit. But the irony is that there's now so much, because there was so much code conflict a few years ago, people are using different code sets which Harmony doesn't necessarily support. So they don't necessarily work in the one environment left for them. So yeah, it's a bit of a.
I mean,
a
I
dead
had
fish.
my one. I think eventually the battery, the rechargeable battery, started to play up, and the underside, the rubber underside, had become kind of unpleasantly sticky for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. So I stopped using it and started just using the
Yeah, completely
completely
unrelated.
Not the reason you're thinking. I started using the controllers for the individual devices, and there's not that many in the home cinema anyway. So after a while, I realised that just is easy. So,
I mean, for
bothered.
me nowadays, it's the Apple TV 4K remote and the remote for the Blu-ray player, and that's about it. That's the only remotes I use.
Well, like Steve said earlier about streaming, on most TVs now, you've got a button for Netflix and a button for Amazon. So you just, on mine, I just press the Netflix button and it starts the telly, opens the amp and everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll try and get Kaz back. He's saying that something's crashed. So
I just got to go and feed the cat.
Yeah, so we're busy. We're busy trying to get Kaz back. So we'll get back to Kaz in a second. Right. So moving on, we need to talk about Technics turntables. There's 2 new Technics turntables.
Well, 1.5 new Technics.
Yeah,
turntable.
I mean, technically, there's 1 new turntable, and there's now a different color for
Correct.
for the 1210. It's now a 1200, and it's silver, which it always was back in the day when it was a Mark II. The 1200 was silver. The 1210 was the black one. So,
well, it's still the case. But yeah, essentially, to do the easy one first, the 1200 Mark 7 is exactly the same as the 1210 Mark 7, as Phil says, except that it is silver rather than black. Technics didn't honestly know what the demand would be for a really stripped back version of the 1200. So they just did one color as the Mark 7. It's done very well. And that you can now have it in both colors because there's fanatical adherence to both finishes. It's the other turntable whose model number escapes me because I had to close the window earlier on. That's
the SL100C.
Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. The SL100C is more interesting because it is largely new. It's the most affordable, hi-fi Technics direct drive turntable. It is still, most importantly of all, it is a direct drive device. It appears to have a lot of the functionality of the 1500C, which we've reviewed on the site. I liked it very much. I thought it had a nice combination of character and bulletproof quality. Obviously, it was announced today, so I haven't seen it yet. But hopefully, this is getting on as well made as the 1500C. Obviously, the arm has been simplified. The motor isn't quite as designed to. I mean, the 1500C makes great play of the fact the motor is a sealed unit designed to last for decades, and hopefully, this will do something similar. But nevertheless, it's been pared back. The Autofon cartridge has been replaced by one of the Audio-Technica VM95 cartridges. Again, review on the site if you want to have a look at those. It's a fairly simple cartridge, but it does mean that you can just, as the review will go into at length, you can snap the styli on and off and upgrade it very simply. I requested a review sample 9 minutes after the email went out this morning. So hopefully we'll be reasonably early on the list of people to have a look at this, because there does seem to be genuine and continued ongoing interest in Technics turntables, and not just from me. So as soon as I can have a look at it, I will be delighted to do so.
I think if I was in the market now for a turntable, I'll definitely go Technics. Now, I would not go SL1210 or the SL1200 Mark 7 because they are a DJ-based turntable and they're made to a price point. And I've found the bodies not to be as nice feeling as the proper G
the
series.
sweet spot of the range is the GRs at the moment, where you're getting most of the quality of the G. But
So it's another 500 quid, is or it's another
Yeah.
600 quid on top. But I think just
oh,
in
it's
terms of
worth it
build quality,
every
it's
time.
worth it.
Yeah. And the arm is an order of magnitude better. But all of them are competitive at the price point. And what's more, it's just encouraging to see Technics is continuing to. I mean, we've seen a good spread of Technics product over the last 24 months or so, and they're pushing in a number of different directions. It's encouraging to see.
And it's strong as well. It's gone down really well, because the thing with Technics was that when they pulled out of the market, it was because the brand had been devalued so much that it just went really sub £100 for some of their CD players and so on. So they obviously weren't making any money, and it was made to the price point. So it went from being incredibly good hi-fi to being pretty mediocre by the time they originally pulled out of the market. So it's nice to see them come back, be brave, come in at certain price points, and the products have been quality. The products that I've looked at and played with, the build quality has been superb. The materials have been really good, and it's been worth the money, in my opinion. So it's good to see that they're coming in strong, and sales have been really strong as well. So that's nice to see as well for hi-fi, especially turntables. It's nice.
Absolutely. So as I say, as soon as I can get my sticky mitts on a review sample, I will do so and get it up on the site. So we'll see where we go from there.
Right, Steve. Apple TV 4K has been upgraded. You gonna go and buy a new one?
I don't think so. I was trying to work out exactly what's been upgraded. I think it looks like a lot of it's US centric, things like 120 frames a second.
I don't even think it's 120. I think it's just 60, to be honest.
No, I think there is. I thought there was a 120 frames. Because high frame, I mean, 60 isn't high frame rate, is it? That is the current frame rate in the States. So it must be 120.
No, it's high frame rate HDR at 60 frames per second, according to the article. And 60 frames per second Dolby Vision video footage. If you shoot it on your iPhone 12, you can send via AirPlay to.
Although the remote control looks nicer.
The remote looks nice, and obviously there's this new calibration feature as well, which will be interesting to have a look at, which uses the iPhone to look at the white balance and then calibrate the white balance via the box. So that'll be interesting to have a look at.
That sounds a bit familiar. That sounds a bit
like a little bit.
Samsung's Easy Cal.
It does. Although price-wise, it looks to be a little bit cheaper for the 32 gig box these days. I think it's about 169. Although you can still buy the current version, and I think the current version is 139, which I think that's quite good value actually for the current version, because this calibration feature and some of the other stuff is going to be added to the existing box via firmware anyway. So
right, so really then there's very little. I mean,
control.
If you can buy the remote control separately,
you can. £55.
55 quid.
Right.
The box only costs 169.
Yeah,
well, it's Apple, isn't it?
Okay, I can live with the crappy remote.
I've never had a problem with the crappy remote.
It's all right. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm used to it. Used to using it. I think the thing that made it good was when they put the circle around the menu button. That made all the difference. The white circle around the menu button made all the difference.
So you can see it.
You can see it, and you knew that was the main button you were going to.
Plus, as Greg has pointed out, you can just use your LG remote to control the Apple TV as well.
Yeah.
Can I just say, was it discussed whilst I was trying to persuade my son to actually shut up and go to bed? I have to say, the new iPad Pro, that looks the tits.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it?
I mean, I know of you guys. I'm one of the tiny number of people. The rest of you don't use iPads anymore, but I am still a very keen iPad user. Great. Okay, great.
Love my iPad.
I think both Steve and Phil have stopped now.
I've got an iPad.
Oh, okay, fine. So it's just film, right?
Well, I used to have an iPad.
Yeah, I
don't really use it for anything. But
well, no, that's the thing. But I do. I mean, I've had the 2 generations old Pro. And I've absolutely loved it. With the keyboard folio, it's worked as a highly portable laptop. I mean, obviously, there's been nowhere to go.
If I needed something like that, like a Mac Air, I would probably get the iPad Pro instead of a Mac Air with a keyboard. I think you'd get more out of the Pro. So I think from that point of view, if I needed something round about that level, that performance, I'd be more tempted to go for the iPad Pro with the keyboard. But because I use my laptop and desktop for video editing, I still don't think the iPad's good enough. I don't think it's going to be fast.
Well, do you know
enough,
what?
so-
Ironically, I've just had Apple agree for my second Apple Care installment on my existing iPad Pro after my son dropped it again. And I've managed to get that in 8 days before my Apple Care expires. So I'm getting a replacement, the old iPad Pro. I will be buying one of these later on in the year, and I'll feed back to you, Phil. I'll let you know how it gets on with some of the more strenuous tasks.
They also announced new iMacs, but infuriatingly, it was the 24-inch, and it wasn't
smaller. It's a smaller screen now, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, well, they haven't updated the 27, so I'm waiting on the announcement for the 27 and above Retina screens replace, because I need something to video edit, and I can't video edit on a 24-inch because it's not powerful enough. It doesn't have a powerful enough chip. It doesn't have the right graphics card. It doesn't have enough memory on board. So yeah, I desperately need to replace the 27-inch that I'm using at the minute because the video card's gone in it, and every now and again it just goes into a flashy screen and
whatever happened to Kaz's back.
Yeah.
Does that mean there'll be some cheap older version IMAX going?
Well, there might be.
I need to upgrade my computer, basically. It's well old.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll wait on that announcement. But the 24-inch, I mean, they look okay. I mean, they'll sell them because it kind of harks back to the original iMacs with the the lurid color schemes and all the rest of it. It looks young. It looks impressive. I can see there being a market for them. But yeah, I need something a bit bigger and a bit more powerful. So be interesting to see what they do with the 27-inch above. They might just meld it all into the Pro version. So be interested to see what they do with that. But yes, so that's Apple products.
Just very quickly, Mr. Strokes, I have the original iPad Pro and it's still going very strong. Can't justify the upgrade. First of all, the original iPad Pro, actually, there's some elements of the build on that which is better than the current flat-sided chassis one. And secondly, I can't justify the upgrade either, but it is tax deductible. So there we are. That's why that's happening. It's been 3 years since I upgraded an iPad. HMRC is fine with that, so new iPad it is.
There you go. Right, so I think we've covered all the news, so let's move on to some review stuff. And Greg, you looked at a gaming PC recently. So again, this is going to move into the conversation we've had already in terms of supply and demand and so on. So you looked at the CyberPower gaming PC. First of all, was it a decent PC?
Yeah, it was a CyberPower Infinity iCUE gaming PC. It had 3060 RTX graphics, an i7 chip processor, good memory. Yeah, it was a nice PC. It had got all the funky RGB lighting, nice case, good cooling.
It's not a gaming PC if it hasn't got the funky lighting, is it?
No, it's got to have the funky RGB lighting, else it's not gaming. Yeah, no, it was nicely put together, nice wiring install. Yeah, it's just the price, the shortage of the graphics cards at the moment and the scalping is just crazy. It's just pushed the price of PCs up massively.
What was the price, Greg?
It's £1,749.
Okay.
Still less than I paid for my laptop.
I was going to say that's
Yeah.
compared to an iMac.
But I mean, sort of for the gaming that you get out of it, it's really only good for sort of 1080p gaming at high settings. And sort of a year ago, you'd be doing 1440p high settings for that sort of price, and probably getting into 4K. But I mean, you can buy, if you're lucky enough to buy a 3 series graphics card, you can pretty much take it to CEX straight away and get a couple of £100, 200-300 quid profit. It's just the prices are just crazy. It's just supply and demand on the graphics card. So it's not, I mean, if you can afford it, it's a nice PC, but it's not the time to buy a gaming PC at the moment because you're just paying over the odds.
Is there an argument? I mean, I have to be honest, Greg. Is there any foreseeable end to this problem for as long as it's notionally possible? I mean, I've seen, ignoring the the Siberian efforts and so on and so forth. I mean, there are people in the UK, and you look at they're paying £400 a month in their electricity, but they are, they're clearing £2,000 a month, and it just doesn't seem to be. There doesn't seem to be any foreseeable. I mean, I know it's taking us off topic. It just, it's one of those things where, I mean, we have a worldwide chip shortage at the moment, but there's actions in place to try and stop that. At the moment, I can't see any easy end to this issue with a crippling shortage of graphics cards, because they're being used for, even with manufacturers doing their best to sort of hobble them for mining, they're still just being bought in bulk for that purpose. And it doesn't help they're being bought in bulk much nearer the point where they're being manufactured. So it just seems difficult as a way of stopping it.
I can't see it changing for at least 6 months. It's just going to be crazy.
On a more specific to this product question, I'm going to ask something which is probably a very stupid question, but it always intrigues me when I see something specifically marketed as a games PC. If myself, or someone like myself, a self-employed person, purchases an optimized gaming PC, they will, I mean, other than the fact that presumably they have they're festooned with interesting colored LEDs and other distractions, if I needed to do day-to-day self-employed work on it, presumably they have a normal Windows install, they will do that quite happily during the day and then switch over to being games machines during the evening.
Well, it's still Windows.
Right, but it's not cut back in any way. Presumably it doesn't come with Office, but Office is going to install on it easily.
Oh yeah,
and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's just the same as a normal computer, but it's just higher spec, so it's it can do gaming. So,
right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously there have been some interesting versions of Windows in the past optimized for specific tasks. So I was just wondering if they would streamlining Windows 10 install.
No,
and
Windows.
stuff like that.
I think Windows have got a game mode, but you don't really need anything like that.
Fair enough. That's good to know. I mean, I mean, the only game I routinely play is now 28 years old, but I mean, it's an interesting construct.
It'll be fine. That'll play on most things.
Yeah,
I've had a couple of pre-built PCs, Greg. The first one was really good, worked as advertised, and what I needed it for, and so on. The second one we paid an absolute fortune for, and it never worked from day one. There was always something. There was a bottleneck somewhere, and we could never get to the bottom of where the bottleneck was. So I've had both extremes when it comes to your pre-built. I mean, the advantages of a pre-built is you're going to get a nice looking box. The wiring's all going to be
that's
done properly. It's not going to be spaghetti junction. It's all going to be nice and dressed nicely, and so on. So there is some advantage to having your PC built for you, and if you know what you want and what you need. And you're not, confident enough to build it yourself. It's I don't think I would mind paying 150 quid for somebody to build me one if they're going to do a good job of it. And
I mean, when I priced the components individually, it was about 150, 170 quid on top of the current price of the components for the complete PC. So to have it arrive, I mean, it's like sort of like a new car, to have a complete PC arrive rather than a load of boxes. You just plug it in, turn it on, and have it. And also with CyberPower, they do give quite a good warranty, so you've not really got anything to worry about. And the other providers do the same sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so it's pretty well screwed together then from CyberPower. It was that's cool, good stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, there's nothing worse than having a gaming PC with all the RGB lighting, but then have all your wires all over the place. So to have a nice sort of clean wiring install is one of the main important things as well.
I mean, it's like a lot of these custom builds that I used to go and have a look at. There's nine better than a nicely dressed rack. And they actually give awards. CEDIA give award for the best.
They do, and it comes down to the finest of margins. Wire tie alignment and all sorts of absolutely terrifying thresholds.
Right, we better get Steve interested again. He looks like he's fallen asleep there. Right, so Steve, you've been looking at a new soundbar.
Well, you say new. Yes, I have just reviewed, or the review's just gone up, shall I say, the new Samsung HW-Q800A, which replaces the HW-Q800T from last year. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison, but from memory and from looking at the specs, I don't think in terms of sound quality and performance, there's any difference at all between these two soundbars. They are identical. They look identical. They certainly sound identical from memory. And the only differences, as far as I can tell this year, are that there's a couple of new features which you can use if you have a compatible Samsung TV. So there was Q Symphony, which was available last year, where you can use the soundbar plus some of the speakers built into the TV to give you a larger front soundstage. But they've also got a thing now called Sound Fit. So that uses the processor and the microphone built into the TV to basically do an auto setup on the for the soundbar when you're in your room. So there's a basic room calibration, which would be a useful feature. It would be nicer if it was in the soundbar itself, but if you do have a compatible Samsung TV, I'm guessing a 2021 TV, then that's quite a useful feature. This year, and this is actually quite good news, this year the optional wireless rear speakers have built-in upward firing drivers. So the package as it is the soundbar and the wireless subwoofer. So you've got 3.1.2. So that's 3 forward firing, front, left, and right, and center, and 2 upward firing drivers plus the wireless sub. If you add the new wireless rears, you'll have surround channels plus 2 rear heights as well as 2 front heights. So you get 5.1.4. That's a nice, because I think previously that wasn't available unless you bought the full all bells and whistles flagship model. You couldn't get rear height channels. So that's actually quite a nice feature. But in terms of everything else, it looks, it's pretty similar to last year, up to and including the name. And but having said that, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it was a really good soundbar and it remains a really good soundbar. It's a really good all-rounder. If you're looking for something to, for watching TV, for watching movies, listening to music and gaming, this is a good, solid all-rounder, a real jack of all trades and a master of most, in fact. And at $799, it's not badly priced either. It supports DTS, X, and Dolby Atmos. Got EARC. So they've got one HDMI input and the one HDMI output. But because there's EARC, as long as your TV supports that, you obviously can have lossless audio sent back via ARC. So yeah, it's a really good soundbar, but it's not a huge difference from last year. So if you see some bargains for the Q800T, you might want to pick it up.
So A follows T. Yeah, it's like
I don't understand that. Hang on.
It's like LG's C10 follows 1, or 1 follows 10.
1 follows
anyway,
10.
Yeah. But anyway, what's the price of this one, Steve?
$799.
Okay. That's not too bad, actually.
Not too bad. It's not too bad. And it's well made. It's a well made. It's got a decent mode. It's a really good, solid all round soundbar that would do everything you want it to do.
Yeah. So Mr. H says, Steve, how well do soundbars fit under TVs these days? The marketing pictures always show them beside a wall-mounted display, and he's right. They do.
Well, no, yeah, the marketing does, but the pictures in the review show it in front of the C9.
TV. Right.
Actually, it's 60 centimeters high. 6 centimeters high. 6 centimeters high. I was about to say 60 millimeters. Yeah, it's 60 millimeters, 6 centimeters high, which is pretty low. I mean, manufacturers are making quite svelte and slimline soundbars these days because TV screens are a lot lower than they were in the past. So yeah, if you're not wall mounting and using a stand, it should be fine. And in fact, the upward firing drivers, they use a thing called acoustic beam technology. That's along the front edge of it. So even if it's under the TV, it won't block the sound waves.
Okay. Right. So moving on from a soundbar, like I say, that review is up now. So if you want to go and have a read of it and get a bit more detail, then do that. Ed's also been looking at an amplifier from Rotel. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is the smallest, and that's a relative term, of the new line of Michi amplifiers from Rotel. This is the X3. And there's an X5 integrated, and then there's pre and stereo power and pre and monos, and they weigh more than the moon. So I won't necessarily be looking at the big ones immediately, although hopefully I will be looking at the X5 in a not too distant future. Now, choosing my words carefully, because £4,300 is a lot of money, but this is a lot of amplifier for £4,300. You get 200 odd watts into 8 ohms, 350 into 4, and all of those figures seem effortlessly bettered in use. Functionality, there's sockets galore. About the only thing you could legitimately say is missing off the back of it is an HDMI ARC connection. And given that Rotel still makes AV processors, they're probably not falling over themselves to fit that, because it's gonna rob them of part of their own market. But otherwise, you've got balanced and single-ended analog connections, multiple digital inputs, including USB. There is an Ethernet socket, but that's only for control. So don't go thinking it's a network product, because it's not in the conventional sense of the word. The review is up on the site, so if you want the absolute in-depth look at it, please read that. But the long and the short of it is that this isn't quite what I was expecting it to be. I sort of, assumed it would be another, Japanese house brand amp, a bit warm, a big, lush sort of sound, and it's not that. It's not to say it doesn't sound good, because it sounds excellent, but this is a much more ballsy, rhythm-based, potent sounding amplifier, and it will drive anything short of, trying to weld with it without any meaningful shortcomings. It's extreme, it's a big, effortless performer. I do mean big. I keep ramming this home. It's the widest amp I've ever tested for AV forums. Now, only by 2 millimeters. But if you don't have a rack with quite wide spaced uprights, I promise you it isn't going to fit. Measure and confirm before you go anywhere near it. But the functionality, little things like you look at the front panel and you think, oh, it's volume and input selection, but there's tone controls and all sorts of other functionality, all just tucked away in some neat sub-menus, and it's beautifully made. I mean, you would expect that for over £4,000, but even judged by the standards of stuff I've tested at the price, it is beautifully made. And I would say I've had to rely more on stock photography for the review, for which I apologise wherever possible. I like taking photos of things, but it is the most reflective product I've ever tested.
Oh, amplifiers, AV amplifiers, power amps, they're the worst thing, especially for black. Yeah,
that was, I mean, it's telling that even Rotel stock shots have got mirror effects in them. Yeah. So yes,
smudgy fingerprints, and you've gone over it with the same microfiber cloth umpteen times, and it's still there.
So yes, I've largely relied on stock photography for that, but it is an excellent product. I mean, literally, when I'm pointing out that the phono stage is adequate, for the most part, it's not of huge concern to a number of AV forums members, and it's not like there's any lack of connections to make connections for an external phono stage. That's literally about it. It is an exceptionally capable product, and what I like about it is that clearly a number of people have sat down with multiple clean sheets of paper. It doesn't feel like it's cobbled together from bits that Rotel have already done. It feels like a very definite statement of intent. It feels like a high-end product at an almost not high-end price by 2021 standards.
Good. What does Michi mean?
It means direction. If you look at the review itself, Rotel's actually made Michi components before. It made a series of them in the early 90s. But Rotel is occasionally a very unlucky company. They literally launched them at exactly the point where we pivoted from being really invested in Japanese high-end in Europe to all of a sudden wanting to go for minimalist European amplifiers with a volume control and a power button. So they didn't quite have the impact that Rotel was hoping for. But if you have a set of them now, they're worth a fortune because people have recognized how good they are.
Okay, right. So that wraps up our reviews. The LG G1 video review will be live on Friday. So if you've been waiting for that, it will be live on the channel on Friday, along with the settings video, which will pop up over the weekend. So we've done a settings video for you as well, not just SDR, but HDR and also Dolby Vision settings. So the best settings out of the box. So look out for those videos. They're coming up from me. So I spoke about the G1 last week. There's no need for me to go through it yet again.
Best settings out of the box. Filmmaker mode.
Yeah. and Dolby Vision Cinema. That's yeah. And it's gotten to the point, and we're going to come back to this and discuss it one week when I've got some more TVs into some more 21 TVs in to look at. But yeah, do you need a professional calibrator these days? Well,
say that.
in a pandemic, you haven't been able to have a calibrator in anyway. But is it getting to the point now where these TVs are so good out the box that do you actually need a professional calibrator? I think it's a subject that's, especially with these
Let's have
apps.
Steve discuss his own obsolescence.
But especially with these apps that are coming out as well that say that they can set up the picture and all the rest of it. It's it's a discussion that needs to be had. I'm not saying that they are
You
obsolete.
could never
yet.
beat the benefits of a skilled professional.
You'll never beat the benefits of a skilled professional, like somebody like Jules, for instance.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah, he's very
Yes.
good.
Obviously just winding Steve up here, but no, I don't think calibration is obsolete. I think there will always be a space for it, but it is interesting, especially when I tested the G1, just how accurate these things are now out of the box, and the calibration stuff that you're doing, you really are just fine tuning it these days. Whereas in the past, Steve, when we went to manufacturers and gave them talks about why we wanted the controls on the TVs and so on, those were the days where even cinema mode was miles away from where it should have been in terms of accuracy.
It's unfortunate that generally what you find is that the cheaper the TV, the less accurate it is out of the box. The more it needs in a calibration, but the less likely anyone is to pay for it.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. But even at that sector of the market now with filmmaker mode, filmmaker mode has been huge. It's been a huge success. It really has. So maybe we need to get the UHD-A on board and come on the podcast and we'll discuss that. But yeah, it's definitely a conversation point for another day, because we need to discuss and wrap up on our improving your AV experience in your room. So we've covered speaker placement, TV placement, EQ, room correction. So the final bit, Steve and Ed and Greg, is to discuss how do you make your room perfect for either your audio or audio and visual. So I guess we need to cover the basics if people don't know what the basics are. But Steve said it earlier on when we were discussing taking photographs of room. If you can take a photograph of a room, you ain't doing it right.
Depends on what you're using, doesn't it? I mean, if you're using a
for
projector,
home cinema and a projector, if you can take a photograph of the room and make out everything in the room, you haven't done it right. If you've got a projection system and you want the absolute best out of that system and the audio system as well, is the room design, you can't have anything that's going to reflect light. And that can be just an amplifier facing the screen at the far end of the room. If it's got a front panel on it that lights up in any way whatsoever, in a pitch black room, that is going to have an effect on your screen contrast. And people always say to me, that's nonsense. But then when you do the demonstration for people and you show them, you're sitting in this room and suddenly you switch the front display on this amplifier, even though it's the other side of the room, it's lighting up the whole room and it is affecting your contrast. So you can go for that. And that really is the far end. And that's where you want to get the absolute best out of your room. Other mistakes that people make in a cinema room with a projector is do not hang posters with glass fronted holders. That's the biggest mistake.
You don't want anything reflective in there if you can avoid it.
And I've seen it in empty rooms, and I've done it myself in the past when I had my first ERT projector. I had the posters all lined up along the wall in glass cases and close to the screen, and it just reflects light all the way around the room and back onto the screen. And again, it absolutely kills your contrast. So if you're looking to get the absolute best out of your projection system, black is the way to go. Now,
take a tip from the Rolling Stones and paint it black.
Yeah, paint it black. However, that's not going to work for a media room or a living room. So that really is for those that are dedicated. You can get very, very close to it and still have a very livable space. And I can see some of the images that Stuart's putting up for those that are watching live on YouTube at the minute. A lot of these rooms are designed so that when the lights go down, the room is black. I mean, I don't have my side walls, ceiling or back wall painted black. It's a dark purple. But as soon as the lights are off, it's non-reflective. And the light is off. My walls and ceiling are black. They're pitch black. There's nothing on them. So you can get around it. The best color to use is gray, and different shades of gray, because obviously gray is just white with at certain levels. So that is the best color to use. Obviously, round the screen you want black. If it's a projection system, you definitely want black velvet around the edge of the screen. If you're using a 235:1 screen, you need masking. I don't use masking, and my image suffers because I can't have that pitch black edge along the edge of the image, and it does affect contrast. So Steve, you've got some, it's stick-on, isn't it?
Yeah, they're magnetic panels.
Yeah.
So you've got scope ratio 2.35:1, or you can go for it's 1.78:1 with the masking on, and the difference it makes to 1.85:1, 1.78:1 content is staggering. It's easily the simplest and best upgrade I've done in years.
I'm certainly going to look at that, because you do need that black edge to the image. So you need that bit of black velvet next to the edge of the image. It's just the way that the eye works, your eye works, and to see that it's a definite edge, and it helps with defining contrast, defining the image, and so on. So those are my tips for a cinema room in terms of the image quality, and how you can improve that. Now, we're talking about a dedicated room there, and when you've got a dedicated room there, then you can use colors like black, like really dark grays and darker colors to make it black, and so on, dark carpets and so on, because it's a cinema room. So that's the way you're going to design it. Now, let's move on to media room, Steve. So when I describe a media room, that's a room that is going to be used by the family to watch TV, to game, to maybe have an 85-inch screen or a big screen, certainly on one wall, and some kind of audio system. So in terms of decoration, we're moving away from projection, so we don't need to have as darker colors.
No, you don't. In fact, I mean, let's assume you're using a TV here, not a projector. Then you've got a much brighter image, so you've got a lot more latitude in terms of what colors and shades you paint the walls. But one suggestion would be that the wall the TV's on, if you can paint that a nice neutral gray, that's just good in terms of contrast for the eye. And we've already discussed this in previous podcasts, but a neutral gray plus some bias lighting behind is a great approach for TVs. Other than that, though, yeah, you've got a lot more latitude in terms of the room itself. Because I mean, if it's going to be a family room, you can't go mad and paint it black and stuff like that. It's not going to go down well with anyone.
Just interestingly, one thing a good friend of mine has been discovering: if you are using bias lighting, do pay some attention to the paint, as well as the color. The actual paint type that you're popping up on the wall has some relevance as well. Bias lighting you get a double halo with if there's too much of a sheen on the paint finish.
Yeah, you need it to be matte.
Yes, but then again, this leads back to the limitations of domestic acceptability. Pure matte is a bit rough and ready. It feels like you're in the interior of a tank. So what you're looking for is something which is not described as a high sheen paint, because at the moment my fashion correspondents informed me that actually we're moving in terms of very fashionable lounges, we're moving away from purely matte finish paints and going for something which is not a true gloss but has got a bit more of a luster to it. I'm afraid that isn't an ideal for these sort of things.
One modern approach, Ed, and it's one that's been used in dedicated theatre rooms and cinemas, and that is moving its way now into living rooms and media rooms, and that's to have a cloth covered wall.
Yes. To be fair, it doesn't necessarily gel exactly perfectly with what Steve has been saying, but there are some beautiful wallpapers, and most of those are actually not a high gloss finish. And also they have the added benefit from a sonic perspective of being, even though they're only marginally thicker than a sheet of a coating of paint, they are significantly more absorbent. So if you have a lively room, putting wallpaper in can have some surprising effects.
It can. So, media rooms, you've got a bit more latitude, like Steve says, in terms of what you have on the walls, the colors and materials and so on. And then when it comes to a living room, it's definitely down to you and whoever you're sharing the house with in terms of how that's decorated. and getting the best out of your image. And in those cases, I would always go with a TV, because even with the best shot throw projectors and stuff like that, Steve, with light projection screens, as soon as you put white anywhere in a room, you're killing contrast straight away. So even with one of these, up-to-date ultra shot throw projectors, in a light colored room without any, feature wall or anything, it's going to kill your contrast.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute contrast killer for projectors if you've got white walls in the room. It's okay if you've got TV, fair enough, because it's going to be so much brighter, it won't have such an impact. But any projector, I mean, so for God's sake, don't go and buy a JVC and stick it in a room with white walls, because you have just wasted your money. The big selling point of a JVC, one of the big selling points of a JVC, there's many factors, but one of them is obviously its black levels and its contrast, and you won't get that benefit in a room with white walls. So bear that in mind. But obviously with TVs, because they are inherently so much brighter, you do have a lot more leeway in terms of decor in an average living room, where chances are it's going to be lighter colored walls, because you don't want to sit in a dark room when you're not watching TV or whatever. So with a TV you'll be fine, but but if you're using a projector, you really need to think it through, because it's not just okay. Well, I mean, you can get an image, but it's not going to be a great image unless you take certain precautions,
certain measures.
There are so many things nowadays that you can do in terms of decoration, materials that you can use, wall coverings that can be used, and so on, that we've definitely gone from the days of where you're talking about painting a room now. You just have to look at some of the images that Stuart's been putting up on the live video, and if you're listening to the audio only version, maybe stick the video on just for this section, and there will be timestamps so you can jump straight to it. Just have a look at some of the images that Stuart's been putting up on the screen, because a lot of these rooms are using projection systems and so on, but they're designed in such a way that the wall coverings are using cloth or darker materials, and there's strong lighting in there to light the room up. But as soon as they want to make it dark, there's things that you can do with LED lights and strip lighting and all sorts of things, where you can make it really quite a livable and really nicely designed.
I think fabric coverings on the walls, you can go a lot darker with those, because they're fabric rather than actual paint. There's a softness to it, which kind of it sells. It makes it easier to bear the darker material, because it's fabric. Plus, also they're great for hiding away speakers.
Absolutely.
Which is another thing we talked about before.
As well,
if you can't see things, it's a nicer experience. It's a more rewarding experience. So fabric walls is a great way to, if you've got the budget and you can do it in that room. That can be a really effective way of giving you a darker environment, but without it being quite so screw you in terms of going into a room that's just got black painted walls.
And the thing with cloth coloured walls as well is that you can put designs in there as well. So it doesn't have to be a plain covering. You can put patterns or striping or anything that you want, really. The main things to take away from this is anything that reflects light is bad. Putting TVs or display devices opposite windows is bad. If you're using a projector, you have to make the room compliant with the projector, otherwise you're just going to kill your contrast. And then if it's a media room, you can get away with most things in a media room, and covering the walls in a certain color or certain cloth material or finish is a winner if you want to use bias lighting and so on. So I think that kind of wraps up the last few weeks that we've been talking about this, making our homes that little bit better in terms of viewing and so on. So we'll need to think of something for next week.
Well, I mean, I can do how to allow vinyl to eventually mean that you end up living alone. I mean, it's a 10-year program, but I can probably truncate it. If you want to.
Well, this is where you, dear listener, can get involved. So if you want us to discuss anything, or you've always wanted to know something about equipment or how to set something up and so on, then drop us an idea in the chat window if you're watching live, or do it on the podcast thread on AV Forums. You can find the podcast forum right at the bottom of the forum list. Scroll all the way down, it's just above feedback. You'll see AV Forums podcast. Go in there, click on the episode and leave your feedback in the thread, or you can send us an email, podcast@avforums.com with your question or your suggestions, and we'll come back to that. And we'll answer any of your queries when we get them through. So that kind of wraps up hardware. So next, we're moving on to software.
If you enjoy the podcast on YouTube, then please like and subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, then please leave us a rating on your podcast app. We invite you to email questions and feedback to podcast@avforums.com and join in with this episode's discussion thread in the podcasts forum at AV Forums.
This one's a stonker. Ed's album of the week. It's been on high rotation here.
Yeah, technically it's not an album. So just so it's clear, we get trade description done at the first part. This is an EP. I need just 17 minutes of your time this week's people. This is an artist called Jaguar Jones. You may be surprised to learn that that's not her birth name. She's actually called Dina Lynch. She is an Australian citizen, but she is half Taiwanese, half Australian by birth. I'd never heard of anything that she'd done prior to Friday morning, but this just appeared on Cobuzz. And as Phil says, it's in terms of the artistry, the ground covered in 17 minutes, it's a hell of a thing. She's a remarkable woman. I've since tried to find out a bit more about her. She is a visual artist. A lot of the imagery that is in the videos accompanying these songs, and then the material itself, is entirely her own creation. She's a vociferous campaigner on behalf of victims of sexual assault, because she is herself one herself. And on a more basic and prosaic musical level, I just think this is an absolute banger. It covers, let's say, 5 tracks. I particularly like Murder. I think that's a magnificent, I mean, it's written for a film that hasn't come out yet. It just, the way it sounds, the way it feels, and it's really, really good. I mean, it was a good week for music. London Grammar dropped an album, and it's a good one. Greta Van Fleet dropped an album, and it's a Greta Van Fleet album. Let's leave it at that. And there's all sorts of other things, but this is something that really, you know, I really feel warrants further attention, because as and when this lady drops an album, I will be there on the moment of release. I've already imported one extraordinarily expensive record from Australia in the last year. I'm looking at doing it again. So yeah, I think this is absolutely brilliant, and I think it's well worth a listen. It's on all the major streaming services, and as I say, if you've got the time and inclination, the accompanying videos for most of these things that are available on YouTube, they're minor works of art in themselves. So yeah, give it a go. See what you think.
Artwork looks like it's inspired by Aeon Flux.
It is to an extent, but then the stuff that the video for Astronaut, I dare say, Kaz, it plays on film references that I don't even know. I think you'll probably enjoy it more than I do. So yeah, it's really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and yeah, I hope you guys too.
Excellent. Well, it's been on high rotation here. It is a good choice. So yeah, keep your recommendations coming, Ed, because it's getting good now, because my obviously I've been listening to all your recommendations. So when I go to my liked songs now, or my on repeat, Spotify are already putting out together nice little playlists of all the different recommendations you come up with. So yeah, I'm enjoying my music listening at the minute.
Mr. Ed, where do you see the videos? She's got a YouTube channel, the Jaguar Jones YouTube channel. You can see the official releases. No piracy, no messing. You can see them there.
Yeah. Anybody got any album recommendations before we move on to movies? Or
no, but I would like to just quickly say RIP to Jim Steinman, who has now entered the halls of Valhalla, and he can stand next to Wagner as an equal.
Arguably, he did far more catchy tunes than Wagner ever did.
Yeah. They were almost as long as the Ring Cycle, but yes, he wrote some of my favorite songs. He was what Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young, most of Bad Out of Hell, the whole of Good for Bad, Bad for Good. Sorry,
I know who you mean now. Bad Out of Hell. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
dropped.
he wrote Bad Out of Hell.
Yeah.
I mean, Meatloaf is just an instrument. He was just the bloke singing it. He doesn't matter. Meatloaf doesn't matter.
No, can we clear? I mean, he is the only instrument.
No, but it's
that would have made it
Steinman.
work.
Steinman wrote it and arranged it. He created those albums. You listen to
And then essentially he then Meatloaf ignored Steinman for a bit, and then his next major hit was the moment he reconciled with him and did Bat Out of Hell 2 Back into Hell.
Well, he
would he
did
do
Dead
anything
Ringer.
for love?
I still think that was a misfire, personally, but yeah, okay.
16
fine.
minutes of it. Yeah, unfortunately, he did have a bad habit of writing the same song over and over again in his later career. But yes, he's done some amazing songs. The Pandora's Box album, where he basically put together an all-girl group. It's got some fantastic songs, things like It's All Coming Back to Me Now. The future ain't what it used to be no more. It's just anyone who can write a 10-minute song about getting laid in the back of a car, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, which is, and it's not only is it a brilliant song, but it's also incredibly funny because I'll love you to the end of time so we can get his leg over. Once he's done it, she'll go like, I'm just praying for the end of time to hurry up and arrive. It's genius. Absolute genius. So Jim Steinman, we will never see us like again. And yes, he wasn't that old either. 73 is young.
It was a lively life, in fairness.
Yeah, I think he had liver failure. I think maybe there'd been some chemical and alcohol factors involved there.
And just obviously for listeners, Stuart's got the image search for him running. He did have some particularly ambitious sunglasses as well.
He's big on the mirrored sunglasses and some strange tastes. A lot of gloves. He wore a lot of gloves for some reason. And yes, he did have a unique. He sported the same haircut since '72. So
works for Brian May.
yes, same clothes since '72, I think.
But yes, another great, but what a legacy. I mean, obviously, if we're doing this, it's now 5 years. Stuart's broken it. 5 years since Prince has died, and it still seems like yesterday. Madness.
Well, they're still bringing out 10 albums a year.
To be fair,
it's ridiculously prolific.
and to be fair, the work they're doing, the revisiting of some of the albums. My brother is a tremendous Prince fan, and he's been wholly supportive of the sheer quality of those re-releases. They are expensive, but they are bloody good. So. Yeah, all fine. Shall we talk about some films?
Sorry, Andy Bassett just pointed out Jim Steinman produced a discarded version of Def Leppard's Hysteria. Yes, apparently Steinman tells the story that when they were recording in Dublin, and apparently Steinman came in and said, I can't believe we're here in Dublin, Yeats and all these great, mentioning all these various poets, and then I think it was Joe Elliott said, I haven't seen any of the local bands yet, mate. So at that point, I think Steinman decided to walk out. That's the story he tells anyway.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about some films. So, Kaz, what have you been reviewing for us this week on 4K disc?
Batman vs Superman. So
why am I surprised with that?
Again.
It'll be Justice League next time. Again. I know I've thoroughly enjoyed getting back into this. And that's coming as someone who was absolutely done with DC. So I never thought I'd find myself in this position. I've got Batman versus Superman, and I had Man of Steel. Both of them, I think at least one copy was still sealed, and it's just not something I was going back to. And of course, a Justice League, which I'm pretty sure I only opened for the review, and then that was gathering dust. I was happy without this universe, just enjoying my Marvel. But it's been a while since we've had anything Marvel movie-wise, I guess. So that'll change with Black Widow, but it's been a pregnant pause. Obviously not intentional. And it's been an interesting time to get back into DC. Unexpectedly, because it didn't come through the release of Birds of Prey or Wonder Woman 84 or whatever else they churn out. It came through a release of a 2017 movie, but I decided that after that I would give them all another shot, and I'm glad I did, because I realized that you needed the crazy and painfully relentless destruction at the end of Man of Steel to give a reason for Batman and Superman to take place. And I actually I enjoyed the longer cut again. I think it's well paced. I think it's well put together. I think that the new formats fits in better with Justice League. It's kind of an in-between the 2.4 of Man of Steel and the full, 1.33 of Justice League. It has a number of key scenes opened up in,
And what,
full
1.43 to 1, are
IMAX.
they?
Yeah, they're 1.43. Yeah, so it's not like he hasn't just gone to fill
He
your
hasn't done the
screen.
Nolan approach of going to
No.
1.78 to 1.
No, he's gone full, and it works most impressively for the nightmare sequence, which takes on a different kind of scale. I mean, I put screenshots in the review. You see a different scale to that scene. The clash with Superman is also feels different, but I think it's the nightmare sequence that works better. But anyway, it's a teaser more for the other one. And what I found rewatching it,
He's also adjusted the color timing, hasn't he, slightly?
he has, to make it look a little bit more Justice League-y and a little bit darker. I mean, it's a fantastic looking image. It's one of those really rare ones, and it got me wondering why Marvel never did it. It's native 4K, so I don't know how they pulled that off for this, but Marvel is stuck in like a 2K pipe for all of their stuff.
Not all of them, because I think Black Panther's a native 4K.
Is it?
DI.
I thought,
it is unusual for a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I thought the majority of them, considering how much money they put into them, I was a little surprised to find this, which is 2016, was native 4K. Anyway, it looks spectacular for it. IMAX scenes look tremendous, and as I said, I enjoyed revisiting it because, much like Man of Steel, where my problems all come in the final act, in Batman vs Superman, all my problems come in the final act. I mean, bar one, which is that they cast Jesse Eisenberg as Jesse Eisenberg, because he's like the most irritating person you could pick in the role. And every time he comes on and they play that whimsical score and he skits across the screen, I just want to fast forward. And I'm not a fast forwarding movies kind of person. But given that he holds together the entire narrative because it's his plot, his character's plot, I find it such a bad misstep in casting.
Considering how good the casting is.
Otherwise,
I think Ben Affleck, best Batman ever. On
he absolutely nails
Henry
Batman.
Cavill looks fantastic. Gal Gadot, great choice for Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa makes a really good Aquaman. Even Ezra Miller's good as the Flash, and Ray Fisher as Cyborg. But Jesse Eisenberg, disastrous.
Yeah, it's really odd though, because they said that his casting at the time and his performance was inspired by Heath Ledger, and I just can't see anything other than it was inspired by Jesse Eisenberg being Jesse Eisenberg.
Or doing what's his face,
Zuckerberg. Yeah, it's just it's a toss up between playing himself and playing Zuckerberg, but he's phenomenally bad in it. But anyway, my biggest problem narratively with it is that they try and introduce the entire Doomsday plot, which was a book called The Death of Superman, and is a momentous kind of chapter in the annals of Superman lore. And I've no idea why they cram it in to the end of this. But having seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, I have a better idea of why they crammed it into this. I'm not saying they should have done, still a bad decision, but much like the stupid ending of Man of Steel, which gave birth to the whole reason for Batman versus Superman, the ending of Batman versus Superman gives birth to Zack Snyder's Justice League. So as a trilogy, I actually really enjoyed going back over.
I rewatched Wonder Woman. I watched Wonder Woman 1984 a couple of weeks ago. It's terrible. But the original Wonder Woman from 2017, I think it's really good. And it fits thematically and visually. It fits really well with the 3 Snyder movies.
It does, yeah.
maybe Suicide Squad, the David Ayer original cut, would have also fitted better thematically. And whilst Aquaman isn't quite the same because it's a way over the top
Tron
opulent visual experience. Watching Snyder's Justice League, you can see where he was setting that film up.
Yeah,
They were setting up everything for that film quite well. So, and they had to then essentially redo a lot of it again in Aquaman because those scenes weren't in the Whedon version. But I mean, it's a real shame that Warner's bottled it because
it's a universe.
It was a universe, and it was different from. I mean,
it was.
You can't beat Marvel at their own game, so why not do something different?
Yes, it had flaws, and I can see why people didn't like it being this dark, but it held together. I mean, I think things would have just been different if we'd had Zack Snyder's Justice League back then. People would have still probably
with Ben Affleck's Batman, where he takes on Deathstroke.
Oh God, that
all of it would have tied together, and the Flash and everything, and it would have all. I mean, the problem is they didn't spend time developing these characters before they went to Justice League, but that wasn't Snyder's fault. That was Warner Brothers pushing him to give them an Avengers before they'd put in the hard yards that Marvel had done. Yeah, and so you can't blame Snyder for that. He just did what the studio asked him to do, and then after that, all the problems were studio interference.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's shocking to think about because I reckon back in 2017, if he came at me with there is a much better movie out there, Snyder just wasn't able to release it, I would probably just say that's utter nonsense. If Whedon couldn't have done a good, if this is the best Whedon could do, it's because this is the best anyone could do. I was definitely not an apologist for how badly DC got it wrong. But I do think there's mistakes made here. And there is still that question whether anyone can possibly undo it. I mean, we still get so much DC material. I know on one of the threads, I was going through all of the Batman-related products out there that aren't a Batman movie. So we've got Gotham PD, Pennyworth, Batwoman. We've got Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, the Harlequin movie, Birds of Prey. I mean, it's just mind-numbing that they've done so much tangential stuff. And then the Joker,
none of which is very good.
Yeah, apart from the Joker, I would say all of it you could pretty much discard. But they haven't done a solo Batman movie. They didn't give Affleck a solo Batman movie. And looking at Twitter back in 2016, they were like, the tweets were something like hashtag fire Ben Affleck or fire Bath.
Yeah, I don't know why he got so much hate. I think he's a great baby. He's a good-looking bloke. He's got big chin, which is basically all the part is. It's all chin.
Batman requires.
Yeah, he's tall, muscular, built like a brick shithouse. I mean, he's charming. He can play both sides of Bruce Wayne. You can play the playboy.
Oh, it's very Bond. It's very Bond in it.
Yeah. Well, you got the public persona that's the playboy. You've got the brooding Bruce Wayne, and then you've got Batman. He can do all of that.
It's always the believability that he can stand up to these people with superpowers and be.
Well, that's an inherent flaw.
It's an inherent flaw, but it's getting the believability that he has this vulnerability, but he also has the strength to go up against the likes of Superman and so on. And in the past versions of Batman, I think that's the bit that's never been successful. But I do believe it with Affleck's Batman. I think it's far more believable.
That Christian Bale did a decent Batman, but his Bruce Wayne came across as a bit Patrick Bateman. So
did absolutely.
Yeah, I think a solo Batman film for Ben Affleck would be good, wouldn't it?
It would have been good. I mean, it was.
I rewatched The Accountant on Sunday night. I bloody love that film.
Oh, that's a good film.
That's a good film. That's a good film. I'll tell you what, Ben Affleck, because the last scene in Justice League was Zack Snyder shot that only a couple of months ago in his garden, and Ben looks good. I mean, he looks in fantastic shape now. He's got off the booze, so. Maybe give him a film.
Yeah,
he's in perfect shape. He's looking slim and
like an HBO limited series. I think it's AT&T and HBO that will call the shots in this. I don't think
they are the ones calling the shots.
So they've got to give him a limited series with Deathstroke, fill in some gaps. You know, I'd love to see how that panned out. It looked really good, and I loved the action sequences in Batman versus Superman where he was taking on the thugs in the warehouse. I mean, it was very brutal for Batman, and it reminded me of the Batman Arkham games, you know, where it's 20 people and Batman knows what he's doing. I thought it was it was really good, and they should have done something with it. So I'm hoping someone picks up the baton somewhere down the line.
Right, are we done with DC then? Have we got out of our system tonight?
Yeah, no, it's clearly not out of it. But
we can talk Marvel if you like, because they finished shooting Doctor Strange.
A cider fat farm down the road from me.
Yeah, they just I think they did it without releasing any.
No one knew they were shooting.
Yeah, they just said, "Oh, we've wrapped filming on Multiverse of Madness." They must have done it in another universe. But
so apparently Benedict Cumberbatch was down the road, and the two kids who play Wiccan and Speed in WandaVision were knocking around too. So that ties in with the fact everyone knows that WandaVision leads directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Interesting. Did you watch the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer?
I did.
Would you give them monkeys?
I mean,
because I got to be honest, I wasn't that interested.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's ever been a Marvel entry that I haven't enjoyed.
I like the look. Tony Leung, fantastic. Great actor. So him playing the Mandarin, or a more accurate version, shall we say, of the character, without all the racist Fu Manchu undertones, that would be good. But I just don't know anything about the character really, so I guess I'll have to wait and see.
But they've done that before, haven't they? They've taken some really. I mean, who would have ever expected Guardians of the Galaxy? You know, at the time when that came out, I was not expecting that to be one. And
it's still those two films are still arguably my favorite Marvel.
Yeah. They have a proven track record for taking ridiculous stuff like Shang-Chi and the Eternals and everything they've got in the pipeline. The problem now is the time. You know, it's been so long since we've had.
It's been 2 years. It was 2 years since Spider-Man: Far From Home. By the time Black Widow goes onto Disney Plus,
and we would have had 2 a year. They were released,
but also it's buggering up things because Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who pops up last week on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, was meant to be introduced to Black Widow.
Yes, I heard. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean their only saving grace is that, let's face it, everyone's buggered up. It's not like they're in a vacuum.
Yeah, but when you've got this complicated, interconnected series of films and TV shows that you've been planning for years.
I mean, if you're going to tie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness into WandaVision, you're going to have to hope that people still have a freshish memory of WandaVision a year down the line, because it's next year, isn't it?
I think they should have Disney Plus premiered Black Widow last year. Just bit in the bullet and got that one done. So they were back on the roll again. So the train was running, because it's been stuck in a station for 2 years. And I wonder, you know, I mean, Endgame was kind of an end, a peak, you know, the culmination of 10 years. Whether they'll ever recapture that kind of.
Yeah, it's going to take a while if they do. But they've got secret. Is it Secret Wars or Secret Invasion they're doing?
Yeah, they just cast Emilia Clarke, haven't they?
Yeah, Emilia Clarke and
Sam Jackson.
Yeah, and the lady from The Crown.
Which, Claire Foy?
No.
Can you be a bit more? That's pretty broad.
Claire Foy's replacement.
Oh, Olivia Colman.
Yeah, apparently she's. Yeah, I mean, look. When in doubt, you win your Oscar, you do something worthy, and then you accept a wheelbarrow full of money to do something in the Marvel universe. And I'm not going to judge anybody for doing that, because that's exactly what I would do.
It's interesting you say that, Ed, because I watched the new documentary. It was on Sky Documentaries this week. Burt Reynolds, I Am Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And he's like in reverse. So he did all the crap. He's a great actor, absolutely brilliant actor. But he did all the stuntman films, the Smokey and the Bandits, the films for his
fun
mates.
Stuff everyone likes.
Yeah, and he said, somebody said to him, well, you could have you turned down some parts where other people won Oscars for doing the parts and stuff, and he's like, yeah, but my films when they were released, they were $100 million films. They always made their money back. They always, and I got well paid for it and so on. But then they were discussing Boogie Nights, and he was unlucky not to pick up the Oscar for that. He got nominated, which I think made him proud.
Didn't he not enjoy making it? I think he didn't.
He hated it, and a lot of his mates didn't like it as well. They were calling it that soft porn pick and so on. And it was nothing of the kind. It was about the porn industry, but it wasn't like a softcore pornography film. But that's how his friends and associates had seen it and so on. But yeah, it's unfortunate that he never got the Oscar, because he was a brilliant actor, a really good actor.
I think Stevie DR has just pointed out Smoking the Bandit comes out on Ultra HD Blu-ray.
It does, yeah.
Next month.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't seen that documentary, it's really good. It's on Sky Documentaries at the minute. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I learned a lot about the guy that I didn't know. So yeah,
check it out.
Right. Are we done with everything we need to talk about? Can we move on to what we've been watching?
Sure, but Hans has watched the first 7 minutes of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I was going to say, has anyone actually watched that? Because I have to say, I prefer this to trailers. When they release the first 7 minutes, I'm on board with that. It doesn't spoil the movie, because I'm going to watch those 7 minutes anyway. So it doesn't just show me freeze frame images or really quick shots of the entire movie, including the
ending.
The helicarriers crashing into each other at the end of Winter Soldier. It doesn't spoil any of that. So I watched the first 7 minutes of Mortal Kombat, and it looks a lot of fun. I have to say, I'm a bit spoilt by the anime Scorpion's Revenge. I mean, it's just, you'll never get that level of blood on the screen, but it's
mainly because people don't actually have that much blood immediately available.
Yeah, I mean, this is a brutal start. I mean, they said they had to push the boundaries a bit.
There's this bit in the trailer. I don't know if it's I haven't seen the first 7 minutes yet. I did start watching it, but got distracted. But there's a bit in the trailer where a guy can freeze things, and he cuts his guy's throat. Blood spurts out. He freezes the blood, snaps off the icicle of blood, and then stabs him with that. Which I just thought was awesome.
Looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, there's a bit of freezing in the trailer, but the majority is just a lot of.
So is it like Kill Bill levels of blood everywhere? Uncut version.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they said. They were trying to avoid an X-rated release, but they were trying to push the boundaries of it. But it's pretty brutal. I mean, there's some interesting deaths involving a trowel in the opening 7 minutes. I would say gardeners around the world will get some tips out of this.
So where can you watch the first 7 minutes of this?
I mean, it's on
YouTube, is it?
Yeah, they've actually officially released it. It's also in, I think, the thread on the forums. But yeah, it's just the first 7 minutes, and it looks good. I mean, it doesn't look like it's got a lick of story to it, and you'd probably prefer a tiny bit more characterization before they just dip straight into ripping each other's throats.
Well, I don't think anyone's expecting that in a film called Mortal Kombat.
No, it's fair enough. But I mean, that's how films go astray, don't they? Because it could be a good video game adaptation. But one thing I will say is, where's the publicity for this? Like, it's supposed to be out. Does anyone know when?
When's it coming out? When's it coming out in this country? Because obviously this is a Warner's picture, so it's on HBO Max.
Yeah, so
it's at the cinema in the States.
Yeah, but I know when it's coming out, but no one else knows because there's just no publicity. It's out Friday. It's out this Friday
in this country. So,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
On stream, so you can rent it.
No, you can buy it like Godzilla and Kong.
No, it's rental, not buy.
Premium rental.
Yes,
rental, 20
quid, whatever it is, like it was on Kong. I mean, but where's the publicity for these things? Because I'm quite looking forward to it. But apart from the publicity on HBO Max, which isn't available in this country, it's almost like they don't want people to pay to see it.
Oh, it's a conspiracy.
Which is interesting because Godzilla versus Kong's done extremely well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. So you'd think they'd get behind it. Yeah, I don't know whether it just seems a little bit odd that they don't announce it a bit more. You can't even pre-order it or anything like that. You'll just find on Friday, well, fingers crossed, unless it's just all a lie, you'll find on Friday it magically appears.
Yeah, might check it out. Pellman's just pointed out brain dead levels of blood. No film can have as much blood and gore as Brain Dead. When the hero's using a Flymo at the end to kill zombies. Didn't they literally use gallons and gallons and gallons of fake blood in Brain Dead?
Yes, I mean, I think the trouble here is they're playing with real people, and so they can't make it look that violent. But I'm sure once they don a bunch of masks, it'll get even more violent.
I want someone to have their spine pulled out.
Yeah, well, we need that. You need it, don't you? Signature move. Come on.
It's a signature move.
Finish him.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to fall over myself to watch it on Friday, Kaz, but I'll take it under advisement.
You're not going to fall
wouldn't
over
be
yourself to
probably-
watch anything on Friday.
No, it's not.
No, the pubs are
No,
reopened.
probably correct. No, that's fine.
Especially if you got to pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always other things to pay for. I mean, I discovered a site that sells £150 umbrellas earlier today, and it's like
I saw that and I thought that was a joke. But yeah.
Oh, no, I knew I wasn't joking.
Yeah,
That
you've seen its
was a
shoes.
nice
Oh.
umbrella. In
it's a
fact.
bloody marvelous umbrella, and it's not
I would
150.
lose it on the tube within
What the
5
hell
minutes.
is it? What the hell is a good looking umbrella? I don't get you guys. I really don't. Right.
Anyway, as
let's
far
wrap
as
up.
Mortal Kombat goes, I'm going to let Kaz review it, and then I'll make up my
Yeah.
mind about whether I decide to watch it or not.
Fair.
You'll watch it anyway, Steve.
Well,
get-
You'll watch it and you'll enjoy it.
Definitely 4K.
Probably. I watched the first 7 minutes. I'll give that a go this evening and see how I feel.
Right. Let's wrap up on what we've been watching, then, just so we can tell people what's worth their time and what's not. So I've already told you what I've been watching this week. I watched that documentary about Reynolds, and I've been watching the latest series of air crash investigation. So we don't need to go there. We all know what that's about. Basically, planes fall out of the sky and they investigate it. Right. Who am I going to go to? Who's going to be my victim? Let's go to Greg. Greg, what have you been watching?
I mentioned it earlier, the Van Helsing series on Netflix. I think there's 4 series, and I just started watching it last week and binged. Binged the first series already. Onto the second series. It's quite violent, a lot more violent than I was expecting. It's a good series, worth a watch. It features the character called Van Helsing. I won't spoil it too
No,
much.
really?
Well, yeah, for those who haven't watched it, she doesn't know she's a Van Helsing until a bit through the series, but I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, it is really worth a watch. But I wanted something to binge because I've just finished watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch on Netflix. Adventures of Sabrina, sorry, that's what it's called, on Netflix, which ended massively disappointingly. So I needed to find something to take the pain away.
I don't think you were the demographic they were going for with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, in all fairness, Greg.
Yes. No, the New Adventures. Yes, on Netflix. I can't remember the full name, but those who watched it know what I mean. It ends massively disappointing. So,
Okay.
Is this the second season on Netflix? Because I tell you what,
like the
Netflix have got a
fourth
really
season.
bad
no, it was the 4th.
Yeah,
season.
it's like the fourth
Is it
season.
It was the
of
fourth
Sabrina
part.
the Teenage Witch? There's been
Yeah,
four
the
seasons.
Chilling Adventures.
Chilling
of Sabrina
Adventures
the
of
Teenage
Sabrina.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I noticed their share price has plummeted because everyone's going outside again now.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and as I say, they in trying to be all things to all people, also this insistent with we're going to do lots of our own movies, very few of which are above awful. They'd be better off concentrating on more documentaries, because thus far their documentary content has been bloody marvelous.
Yeah, that's where they really are strong.
But it's not. Unfortunately, it doesn't have. I guess it doesn't have the headline grabbing excitement.
It
Does
hasn't got the cachet of
Netflix.
of a
We're
big
good
show,
at
yeah.
documentaries, even though I would sooner watch Formula One Drive to Survive than I would any of the made for Netflix movies, even the notionally good ones. Drive to Survive is one of the best pieces.
Drive to Survive is so
factual
good that I am
television.
currently watching the new season of Formula One.
Just so you can get an insight.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, for Netflix, because they've had the pandemic, people at home, stuck at home, needing to watch stuff, so they've had that benefit. But at the same time, they haven't been able to make anything new. And they're now getting to the point where they are running out. Even if it's crap, they're running out of
Phil,
crap.
they've moved away from buying in other people's stuff.
Yes.
Because let's face it, this squeeze is applied to Disney, but Disney's got decades of stuff to just,
Disney's going to be the dominant force when it comes to streaming.
And Amazon obviously has also struggled to make stuff, but Amazon's got, a space program's worth of cash in the bank.
Given they apparently spent 450 million on the first season of Lord of the Rings, it's like, what?
Yeah. So
now, granted, some of this expense will obviously be amortized over other seasons, but that's just an insane amount of money.
Yeah. So Netflix has to think smart. Netflix is the Spotify of on-demand video, and unless they are fast on their feet and extraordinarily flexible, they're doomed.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a contentious thing to say either.
It's like most trendsetters, though, Ed. Anybody that comes into an industry and repurposes what people have been doing are always the ones that fail.
Yes.
The trendsetter, the company that puts all the money in and gets it up and running is always the company that fails, because somebody bigger, better, and better funded comes in and mops it up, and that's what Disney's doing right now. Disney is mopping it up in terms of streaming.
And now that they've got shows coming online, because for the first year
it was a bit shaky.
There wasn't much else going on.
No, but now they've added Star, and they've got new stuff coming. Yeah,
and I do agree every month.
I do agree with Steve that you also need to keep an eye on Apple, because their model is almost the complete antithesis of everyone else's. But nevertheless, when they do release stuff, it seems to be exceptionally good.
Yeah, the quality is excellent as well. So, and that's another thing for Disney Plus as well. The quality is really, really good. As is Apple. Everything I've watched on Apple in terms of technical picture quality and sound quality and so on. I can see why there are now empty shelves in Best Buy and other places when it comes to physical media, because when you get into that kind of quality, and Kaz watches more of this than any of the rest of us between disc and streaming, there's not a huge difference these days when it comes to the technical side of it, is there, Kaz?
Not really. No, I've enjoyed a lot of stuff that Disney has churned out. I mean, 4K disc is becoming increasingly niche, which is why you get 40 quid limited edition Basic Instinct 4K box.
It's moving. It's moving to the vinyl.
Worth it for that commentary track.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I hope that commentary track is on there, because it's the finest piece of commentary I have ever heard in my life.
Pure comedy.
Better than Some of All Fears.
Well, that's different for different reasons, and also it's worth listening to the Total Recall commentary track with Schwarzenegger. Doesn't understand the film at all.
Oh, but come on, the sheer joy that he radiates from the moment it starts to the moment it ends. It's impossible not to love the man unconditionally.
Yeah, he is very, very enthusiastic.
I mean, I'd like to see him do a Running Man one. The sheer joy involved in that.
I think they had to pay him to do the Total Recall commentary track.
Well, he's not a fool, and he's a Republican, so yeah, probably.
But I mean, they've got things to. I mean, it would be things to do in this particular time, and to get people hooked in. But it is interesting the price tags to start churning out for 4K releases. I mean, it's now standard, isn't it? A collector's box set. Stick in
I'm sorry, Kaz. As I say, I'm not being facetious. It is the same model as certain vinyl things where, look, let's face it. I mean, music is a more extreme example because it appears on all the major streaming services, inclusive of your subscription, every Friday. But if you want physical media, it's going to be all bells and all whistles, and you're going to pay through the nose for it. Welcome to my world. It's extremely expensive.
There has to be a value angle, and there has to be it's a niche market, so there has to be that niche angle as well. And I think they wouldn't do it if they weren't going to sell these collector's sets. And there's definitely a market for it. Steelbooks as well. I mean, steelbooks are still selling by the ton. I mean, the amount of emails I get through, and you'll be the same, Kaz. The amount of emails that you get through, Steelbook getting a release this week of a film that's been out for 2 years, but they've repackaged it.
And a steelbook, or a lenticular steelbook, or a Mondo steelbook,
I think I went to see lenticular steelbook at the Camden Roundhouse. They were amazing.
Interestingly, for Studio Canal releases like Total Recall, I mean, the steelbook releases are actually the cheap option, because like Total Recall, you spend 50 quid and you get a 3-disc set with a bunch of art cards and a booklet. or you get the
Is art
steelbook.
cards a euphemism?
Nope, you get the
Okay,
steelbook
fine.
for literally postcards, or you get the steelbook, which is 25 quid. So it's literally half the price, and it's got the same 3 discs in it. So
Yeah.
for Basic Instinct, it's a 40 quid set. It's 2 discs, a bunch of art cards, and a poster, and a booklet. And
soundtrack. 2 CDs of soundtrack.
Does it have the 2 CDs of soundtrack?
The box set, not the steelbook. The box set comes with the movie, the extras, and then 2 CDs of Jerry Goldsmith's soundtrack.
Interesting. Well, there you go. Then you're paying the extra for that. But I mean, you can get
Super 8. That's got a 17, 18 quid regular 4K release coming up. It's got a 20 quid steelbook, and the steelbook's really nice. So I wouldn't normally get a steelbook, but I think I might have to go.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, they're the cheaper options for Studio Canal. Invariably, you might as well just get the steelbook because you're not paying the extra for the extra.
When we mention streaming against disc there, I wasn't seriously saying that streaming will ever get as good as, because you're not going to get lossless audio, which Terrible Username did point out. Yes, the audio is the weak link, I think, at the minute. When it comes to disc, you are getting the lossless True HD or DTSX, where you don't get that with streaming services. You're on the lower end of things. But saying that,
still sound pretty good though.
It still sounds really good, to be honest. You know, I wouldn't complain too much about the Dolby Digital Plus derived Atmos. It's still a pretty good experience. You know, considering where we were 10 years ago with DVD and so on, I think it's pretty good. Right, so I think we've covered everything, haven't we? Or what we've been watching, or
I'd just like to apologise to Steve on air for ruining the final of MasterChef. Sorry about that.
I knew it was going to win. It was obvious.
Well, that's
from the
fair
very
enough.
first episode.
Nevertheless, I committed the cardinal sin of
yes,
basically. So I apologise profusely for that. But nevertheless, we finished up with MasterChef. And there's my umbrella. Look at that magnificent vase. That's one of the cheapest umbrellas they make as well.
Pretty sure there's a line in Last Boy Scout about does it have a TV in it?
Can you shoot bullets out of that?
No. Ironically, they still have a London store, which, because it's all tiled, still says that you can buy sword umbrellas, but obviously for legal reasons they can't sell you those. But they have been making umbrellas since 1830, and they used to make an absolutely brilliant line in sword umbrellas, and those are worth a fortune on the used market.
And presumably illegal, aren't they?
They are a grey area. They are a legal grey area.
So you're going to be wearing your mustard yellow Adidas trainers with your designer, whatever it is.
Sword umbrella.
No. As I say, I admire things that are well made, and the whole purpose of these umbrellas is that you buy them, and they are, they last for decades. So we have constant requirements or constant suggestions we move away from a disposable society. This is what a non-disposable society looks like, which is £70 umbrellas.
I think when they do the solo movie of the Penguin Origins, it'll definitely come back in fashion.
Well, who knows? So, but no, nevertheless,
£70 umbrellas, yellow trainers, and a coat that made you look like a Russian sailor who's defected,
and a monocle as well.
To be clear, I'd done all right with the coat. You were mocking me when I bought the coat in 2013. I paid £600 for that coat, which is a lot of money. If you want to buy the same coat in 2021, it is £945. So who's laughing now?
Yeah, but has anyone bought it off you?
No, because I'm not selling it. But I could sell it for more than I paid for it. Damn straight. But I'm not, because it's my coat.
It's the Bitcoin of coats.
Well, it's certainly fashion icon.
No, I know quality when I see it. No, for God's sake, don't take fashion advice off me, because that's a hiding to nothing. But
there's a logo for the t-shirt. I know quality when I see it.
Move away from disposable. As I say, buy cheap, buy twice. That's the whole thing that's wrong with society right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Buy something and it will last. Buy a good example of something and it will last.
Well, I think
except DC movies. So.
Come to what I've been watching.
Yeah.
Quickly. Well, I was just going to say, I'm still plowing through Family Guy. Consistently funny, loving it. Hellstrom finally finished. Thank God, it was awful. And For All Mankind.
Why do you just know?
I just wanted to be able to say that I've seen every single Marvel TV series. So but it was dire. It was a grim 10 episodes, I'll tell you.
I'm not watching it.
Don't bother. Do not bother.
I'm not doing it.
But For All Mankind is excellent. I think next week's the last, this Friday coming is the last episode of the season 2, and that's been really, really good. Falcon the Winter Soldier, I'm thoroughly enjoying, and that's the last episode this Friday as well. And Invincible on Amazon is also excellent.
Okay. Taskmaster's ticking over nicely as well. Mr. Mr. H just asked, what coat is this? It is a SHOT, SCHOTT US Navy leather pea coat. They've been making them since the late 40s. So they don't go out of fashion because they've never been in fashion. There you go.
Right. Are we done?
And on that bombshell.
Right. Thank God for that. Christ, we've been going on for a long time. Apologies if you'd be...
Do you want a podcast competition?
Yeah, we're going to do podcast competition. Don't forget as well, patrons, you get 10% off your merch. And if you've got any ideas for t-shirt slogans and so on, drop them in the chat window, drop them in the thread for the podcast, or send us an email to podcast@avforums.com. And if you're still around, then please hit that like button. It does help the podcast get found by other people. YouTube, show it to other people, and we get more people joining our cult. Right, Kaz, competition.
Sure. Win a copy of Ip Man Kung Fu Master on Blu-ray by using the following question to select the correct answer from the competition page. Who was the legendary student that the real Ip Man trained?
I know the answer to this.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm glad somebody does.
It's Bruce Lee.
It is. The answer is Bruce Lee. And
Yeah,
apparently only 40% of people knew that because they're guessing.
But you see, if they watch the podcast all the way through, or just skip to the end because it's in the time code, they'll get the answer, wouldn't they?
Yep.
So there you go. So if you're a patron, you get good odds on your competitions, and you also get 10% off.
Unless you're Tom, you've got no chance.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I think I've plugged the merch enough tonight. So hopefully,
yeah, you want a commission?
I mean, the patron stuff is good. That Battle Royale box set's 70 quid. And there's only about 15 people who can enter it. So you stand a pretty good
That's
chance.
pretty solid by all accounts.
That's actually good odds.
15-1. That was a TV series, wasn't it?
It was. A merciless TV series that's well overdue a comeback.
Right, but we're not going to talk anymore because we're way over time. So that's it for the podcast tonight. My thanks to Ed Selley.
Ladies, please, let's not lose our heads.
Kaz Harlow.
Get the torch.
Greg Hook.
They got ginger.
And Steve Withers.
Ultra in motion.
If you enjoyed the podcast, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Also hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when you publish new live streams, product videos, and so on. Like I say, the LG G1 review will be up on Friday, so look for that settings video over the weekend. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark avforums.com for latest reviews, news, and videos, and of course, leave us a 5-star rating on whichever service you listen to us on. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.